phrase floating around the country lately, and it got me to thinking. Which part of American history are we referring to? So let's take a trip in the American time machine and find out. It all started in 1607 when we first landed our ship in what would soon become the colony of Virginia. It's kind of funny that we're so hard on illegal immigrants these days, considering the fact that the founding fathers of our country were illegal immigrants. And I know what you're thinking. The founding fathers can't be considered illegal immigrants because there was no government in place when the settlers got here. False. There are at least 566 federally recognized Native American nations that all existed in America prior to the European settlers and all had their own government, sovereignty, and highly developed societies. But we decided that we'd prefer to call them barbaric savages, so we thereby spent the next 150 years murdering the entire Native American population of the East Coast in order to create the 13 colonies. Oh yeah, and I know I keep using the word we, but I probably shouldn't use that because if you haven't noticed, I'm black. So at the time, there would have been no we. I would have been considered property, livestock, an animal. Something that was either stolen from Africa or from right here in America and then sold into slavery. And yes, I did say from right here in America. I know you've been taught that black people's first time in America was walking off of a slave ship, but that is also false. There's countless evidence to show the fact that blacks were present in America thousands of years before Europeans, but that's a whole nother video. So fast forward, now it's 1776 and we're officially a country. But no, the entire East Coast wasn't good enough. Our forefathers came up with this psychotic, egomaniacal concept called manifest destiny. It basically said that we believe that it is our God-given right to shine from sea to shining sea. So what do you do when you need more space in a new country? Kill more natives, of course! So in 1830, Congress passed the Indian Removal Act. It basically said, hey guys, I know you've been living here for thousands of years, but we need you to move west of the Mississippi River, and if not, we can legally kill you. So yeah, we did that, and now we've conquered way more land, but guess what? We need more space! So what's left? Mexico. It's funny how we're having all this talk about keeping our border safe, build a wall, but did you know that this entire Mexican-American border that you're trying to build a wall on was actually Mexico until we stole it? This is how America looked prior to 1845. But then we waged the Mexican-American War and we slaughtered so many Mexicans that they had to give us their land so we would stop murdering them. California, Texas, Nevada, Utah, New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, and Wyoming were all Mexico until we murdered so many people that they had to give us all that to make us stop. So yeah, fast forward to 1863 and something great finally did happen. The slaves were set free. Yay, I'm finally human. But nah though, because at the same time the Jim Crow laws of the South started. Those lasted for the next 100 years and basically said that if you were black and a white person didn't like you, then they could beat you, burn you, kill you, hang you, and there would be no consequences at all. So yeah, so much for freedom. And it wasn't even just about race at this time. Life sucked for white women too. They were basically walking, talking sex toys and cooks. Women couldn't vote, couldn't hold political office, were really only valuable as maids or baby makers, and also could get beaten and raped without getting any justice at all. So yeah, fast forward to the civil rights era of the 1960s and blacks are now getting hosed down and attacked by dogs. But we continued to march on and finally got some form of civil rights. Quickly after that though, in the 1980s, the war on drugs started, which was basically just a war on poor black people and led to the extremely disproportionate rates that black people are incarcerated in comparison to every other race. And we still suffer from racial profiling to this very day. Fast forward to the 1990s and the 2000s and the war on terror started, which was basically just a war on Muslim people. And to this day, Muslims are still racially profiled and humiliated just for believing in God. Finally, fast forward to present day, and I don't even need to tell you what's going on right now because you already know. So when we say make America great again, we need to realize that such a statement implies that we should look back to some shining golden era in our country's history. But if we truly believe that such a statement fits our country, then maybe we need to reassess our definition of greatness. Is greatness a time of financial success and military power when we are the richest, most powerful country in the world? Or is greatness a time when every single citizen truly has liberty and justice and the freedom to live their life in peace? Maybe we shouldn't be trying to make America great again, but rather make America greater than it's ever been. I love you. Hey, one more thing. I just officially started my YouTube channel. The Facebook success has been going amazing. I've gotten over 25 million views and now I'm trying to move on to bigger and better things. So I really need every single person. If you like our page on Facebook, please follow my YouTube channel, Charity Croft. The link will be in the description. If not, just type in Charity Croft on YouTube and subscribe. I need as many subscribers as possible on YouTube. Please, please, please come to YouTube very soon. I will not be posting on Facebook anymore. I'll be only on YouTube very soon. So I appreciate you so much. I thank you guys so much for helping me to get to this level of success. And please continue to support me. Subscribe to me on YouTube, Charity Croft. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you.
Life got total. Life got total. Life got total. Life got total.
Let me ask you a question. How much money do you think you would need to make in a year to be in the richest 1% of the entire earth? 50 million? 100 million? A billion? The answer is even crazier. $35,000. That's right, if you make $35,000 a year, then you are richer than 99% of the humans on planet Earth. In fact, according to the US Census Bureau, the average American household income is $51,939 a year. So if you're watching this video in America or any highly developed country for that matter, it is likely that you were born into more money than most people could ever fathom. So why doesn't the average American feel that privileged? Well, the truth is our massive media manipulation has mangled your mind into believing that your life is just mediocre. They sold you fantasies about drinking fine wine on yachts while most of the earth is fantasizing about drinking the water that's beneath you. People's dreams are beneath you. Are you rich? Well, get this, even if you have a minimum wage job and you live in the poorest city in America, you still make $7.25 an hour, which puts you at about $14,000 a year after taxes. According to globalrichlist.com, even if you had that job, which would be the worst possible minimum wage job in our country, you would still be in the top richest 9% on earth. Wealthier than 91% of the humans that are alive today. That means that every single person in America with a full-time job is in the top 10 richest percent of the world. While you're making $7.25 an hour, the average worker in Indonesia makes just 39 cents an hour. To put that in perspective, let's say you wanted to buy a can of Coca-Cola. It would take just 5 minutes of your workday for you to earn enough to buy one. Meanwhile, it would take someone in Indonesia 2 hours of hard, dedicated work to be able to afford just one can of Coca-Cola. Your 2 eyes saw 3/4 on the ground, so you simply used your sense of sight to satisfy your sense of taste, but you never managed to see the fact that you just drank 2 hours of someone's life. Are you blind, or are you just rich? When you were a kid, did you ever hear stuff like stay in school and maybe you'll become a doctor or a lawyer? Probably so. That's because in our culture we tend to elevate doctors and lawyers because they're paid very well. Well, if you're that McDonald's employee that makes $7.25 an hour, I want you to know that what you make in a month could pay the monthly salaries of 61 doctors in Kyrgyzstan. In a month, you'd make $1,160 as a minimum wage employee in America. If you were a medium wage employee in the Democratic Republic of Congo, you'd make $394 a year, according to BusinessInsider.com. Why were you not taught these type of things in school? Why does the outside world seem so distant? Well, the truth is our massive media manipulation has mangled your mind into believing that your life is just mediocre. They've sold you fantasies about drinking fine wine on yachts while most of the earth is fantasizing about drinking the water that's beneath you. People's dreams are beneath you. Are you rich? Speaking of water, did you know that 783 million people on earth don't have access to clean water? 783 million people have to get up every day and walk miles to find water, and when they get there, it will be brown. This is a chart showing the world's access to clean water. America, Europe, and Australia are fine. Everybody else is thirsty. And here you are every day talking about, oh, I don't drink tap water, I only drink bottled water, the faucet is disgusting. Meanwhile, many people on the earth can't even imagine the idea of water coming out of the pipes in their own house. We have clear water in our toilets. We literally shit in clean water. To most of the earth, that concept is insane. To be more specific, 2.5 billion people don't have access to adequate sanitation. This chart is showcasing all countries on earth in which most people don't have toilets. 1 in 3 people on earth do not have a toilet, near them. They do not even have internal plumbing systems or sewers. This is very important because many of the diseases that have killed millions of people in world history originally spawned from human feces. Are you counting your blessings as much as you're counting your money? Are you aware of how lucky you are to have been born where you are born at? Are you rich? I don't know, but I do know that most of the world's people think you are. Maybe you should try thinking about them too sometimes. I love you. Yo, I really appreciate you for watching this video. I think it's really important that we understand these type of truths. Please support our GoFundMe. It's still live. We still need as much support as possible to help keep getting this message to the world. Please support that. Follow all of our social media. Archduke Do Stuff everywhere. It's always Archduke Do Stuff everywhere. Oh, and shout out to iVision Movement for the shirt. I'll give their links in the description. Thank you so much. I love you so much. Appreciate you.
I'ma be happy. I'ma be good. You better believe it. I'ma be happy. I'ma be good. Get that understood. I'ma be happy. I'ma be good. You better believe it. I'ma be happy. I'ma be good. Get that understood.
What's good? My name is Charity Croft. Here's a question. Why are men asked to take their hats off when they walk indoors? You ever wonder why we even do that? Well, it's because in medieval times, knights would often walk in their homes still wearing their helmets. And their wives would become uncomfortable with the idea of them wearing war protection inside. It made them feel as though the violence might possibly follow their husbands indoors. The end. Well, if that's the case, and it is, then why are we taking our beanies and snapbacks off when we walk inside? Why is that even still a thing? No, it's not because it's respectful. It's because we as humans tend to just conform to whatever is the norm without ever questioning. We just follow instructions, you know, kind of like slaves. Are you a slave? What did you do today? Well, if today is somewhere between Monday and Friday, it's pretty likely you either went to work or school. Unless it's between the months of June and August, in which case you're probably on summer vacation if you're a student or a teacher. And what's your religion? Well, if you're in America, then I'm pretty sure that if not now, then at least at some point in your life, you believed a man named Jesus Christ walked the earth. Even if not, we can be certain that an extremely large percentage of the people very close to you do. You probably eat turkey on the 4th Thursday of November. You probably watch fireworks on the 4th day of July. You probably give and receive gifts on both December 25th and February 14th. You may even be married, and if not, you probably at least have been or one day desire to be, and your wedding day includes a dress, an exchange of rings, and a kiss. Am I psychic? No, but here's a more important question. Are you a slave? Since the introduction of the internet in 1991, we have all become part of what is known as the information age. A time period where we humans have more access to knowledge than ever before in recorded history. Ironically, we rarely ever ask why. Like, why do you believe in your religion? Well, it's probably because your mother believed in that religion and her mother believed in that religion. You didn't choose it, God was chosen for you. Speaking of God, you probably think he's a he, right? You never asked why the creator of the universe would have human genitalia, male genitalia at that. You just went with it because one day you want to see those streets paved with gold. Speaking of gold, why is it valuable? Like, you can't eat it. You can't make functional clothing out of it. You can't even build houses or buildings with it because it's too soft. The metal is too malleable. It's not as strong as iron or steel, yet it costs more. Why is that? Why do we care? Why do you care about gold and diamonds? Were you trained to care about that stuff? Are you a slave? Did you know that the US currency used to be based on gold? Like, every dollar you had at one point was backed by 1.5 grams of gold. But now it's not, and it's just green paper. Actually, it's not even that. Since we now have credit cards and digital online banking, money is literally just an imaginary concept that we all collectively agree exists. Like, if I was to transfer $50 to your account, there was nothing physical that was actually transferred. Just random numbers that we arbitrarily assign value to. With these additional 50 numbers in your account, you can now eat 46 more McChickens plus tax. Speaking of tax, what is it? Well, the word is defined as a compulsory contribution to state revenue. The word compulsory means forced or required by law. So a tax is literally your government taking money from you that they feel you owe merely for existing. And many governments use this money to buy bombs and guns to blow up other countries so they can take their natural resources and own them. Speaking of owning, what is ownership? Have you ever realized that we're the only animals that pay to live on Earth? Like, imagine a lion that owned a watering hole. So every day he would stand there and guard it, and if any other animals wanted to drink, then they would have to pay him 5 rocks per sip. The lion would then take those rocks and pay them to an elephant in exchange for 2 gazelles for his lion cubs to eat. The gazelles even came pre-killed and packaged without bones because the lion doesn't like to get messy. This is the logic of the human. We spend our entire lives in schools getting good grades in subjects that we soon forget about, to get in colleges that we don't truly learn anything in, to graduate and get a sheet of paper that will enable us to get a job that we don't care about, so that we can make money that doesn't really exist, so that we can pay to live in a world that we were born into for free, and buy absolutely meaningless things like gold in hopes that these meaningless things will help us feel better about ourselves, or better than other people. We humans take so much pride in our lives that we were forced to live, and our countries that are literally just imaginary lines used to divide the land that was stolen from indigenous people in the first place. And I don't even know if stolen is the right word, because indigenous people like the Native Americans knew that the idea of owning the earth that we were all created on is idiotic. We humans lie, steal, kill, and destroy all in hopes of being more powerful, more respected, or more loved than the next person. When is the last time you actually thought for yourself? When is the last time you questioned the society in which you live? When is the last time you questioned why you do the things you do? Did you make your own decisions for your life, or were they made for you? Are you a slave? Probably so. Most of us are. But now that you're aware of your cage, free yourself. I love you. You know what I like? Galaxies. You know what a galaxy looks like? A hurricane. You know what a hurricane looks like? A seashell. You know what a seashell looks like? Your ear. Did you know that you resemble a galaxy? 1.618 is known as the golden ratio, the mathematical value that is found throughout the universe that seems to hint towards a common factor between everything. The fingerprint of God. You know what a fingerprint looks like? The top of your head, the inside of a head of cabbage. It seems that both your head and the head of cabbage were designed, perfectly, mathematically designed. But that would imply a designer. Is there a God? Well, the atoms in your body are traceable to exploded stars in the sky. So physicist Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson says that not only are you in the universe, but the universe is in you. You are literally stardust. The law of conservation of mass states that matter can be changed from one form into another. Mixtures can be separated or made, and pure substances can be decomposed. But the total amount of mass remains constant. In other words, the total mass of the universe is constant. Whenever matter undergoes a change, the total mass of the products of that change is the same as it was in the beginning. In fact, it is scientifically law, a fact, that your body mass has been here since the beginning of the universe. You are 13.8 billion years old. The time you've spent here on Earth is just how long you've been aware of your existence. But in actuality, you have been here since God said, "Let there be light." You said it with him. Are you God? Are you God? Speaking of God, did you know that there are about 20 numbers that dictate the state of this universe? The mass of an electron, the strength of gravity, electromagnetic force, numbers that create our universe. World-renowned physicist Dr. Brian Greene says that these numbers have been measured with incredible precision, but no one has an explanation as to why they have the particular values that they do. He says that if any one of these numbers were altered in even the slightest way, our entire universe would cease to exist. Our universe has been designed, perfectly, mathematically designed. But that would imply a designer. Is there a God? You ever felt like you were being watched, stared at? Then you turn around and see, yup, that weird guy 6 tables away was indeed staring at you. How did you know that? Could this be proof that there is some other medium by which information can be received other than the 5 senses? Do you see dead people? Probably not, but you do feel eyes. You do think about that person that you haven't talked to in months, and then suddenly they call your phone. You do dream about things before they happen. You do speak about people and then they just pop up. You have created things out of sound. Speaking of which, did you know that if you take a plate of salt and place certain sound frequencies at it, that the vibrations will cause the salt to form into perfect geometric shapes? These are pictures of sand created by simply exposing them to strong sound vibrations. Words can literally manipulate the matter around you. This is a picture of jars of rice after 27 days of speaking to them. The jar on the right, people only said "I love you" to it. The jar on the left, people only said "I hate you" to it. And thus, the "I hate you" jar molded astoundingly quicker. These are pictures of ice crystals. The bottom row was spoken to positively as they froze. The top row was spoken to negatively as they froze. These are the results. You can speak your world into existence. There is power in your words. John 1:1 from the King James Version of the Bible says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." String theory postulates that the entire universe, including me, you, and this screen that you're looking at me on, is composed of microscopic vibrating strings of pure energy. Sound. Words spoken in a language that we don't fully understand. Living words. You are the living word. Are you God? If so, nice to meet you. I love you.
Life got total. I hopped out the wreck keys, though. Hopped out the wreck keys, though. Brand new. Hopped out the wreck keys, though. Hopped out the wreck keys. Yeah. Imagine one day manifesting everything that you ever could imagine, then it all gets snatched out your hands. Them bands dance like Juicy J strippers.
You know what a tree looks like? Your veins. You know what this fruit, this plant, this mountain, this flower, and this oyster look like? Vaginas. You know what a nebula looks like? Your eye. You know what this unbelievably large solar system looks like? Your unbelievably small atoms. Were you made in the image of God? Maybe not, but you do have an uncanny resemblance to everything that has ever existed. It's almost as though it was purposeful, as if things were purposefully created. But created things tend to have creators. Is there a God? Well, before we answer that question, we must first answer, what is God? Who is God? Like, which God are we talking about? The God of Abraham? Allah? Vishnu? Zeus? All of the above? None of those at all? We can do this forever, so let's make a clear common definition that we can discuss. Is it possible that there was a thing that came before all other things, was aware of the fact that it was a thing, and thereafter helped to create everything else? That is essentially what we're asking when we say, is there a God? So let's get started. You are an organism. This means that you are an entity made up of smaller systems with specific jobs to aid in your survival. Things like your nervous system, digestive system, blah blah. Well then, by definition, the Earth is also an organism made up of ecosystems like forests, deserts, and oceans. Now, whether you're a believer of science or spirituality, you still believe that we came from the Earth. Evolution says that we evolved from lesser and lesser species that originally spawned from the Earth. Many religions say that we were literally created from the dirt and dust of the Earth. So if you came out of the Earth and you are conscious and aware of yourself, then why wouldn't the Earth be conscious and aware of itself? What if the planet knows that it is a planet? In that case, we would merely be the equivalent of cells to the Earth. Speaking of cells, the definition of cancer is uncontrolled cell growth that thereby becomes detrimental to the organism. Well then, our continuous pollution and destruction of the Earth as we grow in population is the equivalent to cancer. That being said, tornadoes and hurricanes could very well be the Earth's way of putting itself through chemotherapy to kill off some of the cancerous human cells that are destroying its body. Natural disasters then become more like medication. Volcanic eruptions then become more like sneezes. What we may think is just a random earthquake could actually be the Earth consciously scratching itself to soothe the pain of the itchy humans. The Earth is alive and may be aware of its own existence. If that's the case, then God no longer has to be some bearded man in the sky that we pray to, but could very well be the universe itself. We've been made to believe that in order to think, you need a brain. Therefore, we only consider animals and insects to be conscious. We consider plants and the Earth to be alive, but we don't believe that they can actually think and act and feel like conscious beings can. Oh, but they do. According to the University of California Science and Environmental Journalism Director Michael Pollan, plants have all the same senses as humans and then some. In addition to hearing, taste for example, they can sense gravity, the presence of water, or even sense that an obstruction is in the way of its roots before coming into contact with it. Plants' roots will shift direction, he says, to avoid obstacles as if they can actually see them. Researchers have even played a recording of a caterpillar munching on a leaf to plants, and the plants react. They begin to secrete defensive chemicals even though the plant isn't really threatened. Pollan says it is somehow hearing what is to it a terrifying sound of a caterpillar munching on its leaves. That would be a preemptive response to potential pain, something a conscious being would do. Now, of course, we can't talk about God without talking about spirits. If there is a God, that would mean that there has to be some type of metaphysical component that pervades within and through everything. Well, there is. Scientifically. It's called dark matter and dark energy, and it literally makes up 95% of the entire universe. All the stars, planets, animals, black holes, and everything you've actually seen only accounts for less than 5% of the universe. The other 95% is made up of matter we cannot touch, see, or interact with in any way, but we know it's there. Because if it weren't, then our universe would literally fall apart, because scientifically it couldn't exist if it weren't for this unforeseen power that's holding everything together. That would be the exact definition that a theist would give for God. This dark matter and dark energy may very well be the spiritual realm that many theologians have spoken of for centuries. We are merely the cells of the Earth. The Earth and all other planets are merely the cells of the galaxies. Galaxies are merely the cells of the universe. In comparison to the universe, you'd be no bigger than an electron is compared to you. But how beautiful it is to imagine that you may be an electron on the body of God. I love you. One more thing. This camera, this computer I'm editing on, this editing software, none of this is mine. We are just people that love knowledge and love and are trying to spread it to you guys as often as possible. And we really need our own equipment, our own resources in order to do this better. So really, we just started a GoFundMe account, and we're asking for any contributions that you can give, anything that can help to support Archduke so that we can bring more content, more music, more everything to you. We need the monetary help. We've dedicated our lives to doing this, and so we're trying to stay at it, but we really need the help. So we have a GoFundMe. That link will be after this video or in the description. Anything that you can give to help us purchase our own equipment, our own cameras, our own studio, anything that we can to continue to bring content. We appreciate it so much. We love you, and I thank you for your support.
I'ma be happy. I'ma be good. You better believe it. I'ma be happy. I'ma be good. Get that understood. I'ma be happy. I'ma be good.
Resurrected, brand new, and show the world how butterflies flutter. That's how you do it, nigga. Push. I got bruises, nigga. Look, like they both my fucking rooks. And I'm a little pawn walking up the board until I turn queen. And then I write a book about how much that it took. Had to let go of that double-edged sword. Been steady stabbing myself since I was
a phone, tablet, or a computer. Maybe even a TV if you're extra fancy with an HDMI cord. But listen, that device you have is literally just a box of plastic wires and chips. Yet here I am, a human, talking to you through a screen. How is that possible? Like, for this to have worked, that means that this camera I'm recording on had to take my voice and image and translate it into readable code. And once I uploaded the video, that code was invisibly, inaudibly transmuted through the air as frequency waves to get to your device. I'm not making this up. Believe it or not, Google and Facebook and the ancient history of Egypt and every single piece of human history ever recorded in the history of ever is invisibly floating around your head right now. Wow. And all you have to do is hit search and it's right there in the palm of your hand. And the most amazing part of everything I'm saying is the fact that humans created this. So like, how smart can you get? Well, according to Paul Reaver, the professor of psychology at Northwestern University, if we could convert the human brain capacity into computer memory space, an average brain should be able to store approximately 2.5 petabytes of information. That is 2.5 billion megabytes of space. In other words, let's say if I made enough educational videos to last like 3 million hours. Your brain has enough space to watch all 3 million hours of my videos and remember them verbatim just as easy as you remember your name. The only problem is, in order to watch 3 million hours of video, you would have to be viewing me non-stop for 300 years. Yeah. So although it sucks that you can't sit and listen to me talk uninterrupted for 300 years, the beauty of this fact is that you can learn something new every second of every minute for the rest of your life and your brain will never become full. You, right there, watching this video can become 100 times as smart as Albert Einstein. All you have to do is try. Speaking of Albert Einstein, one of my favorite quotes by him is this: the most incomprehensible thing about the universe is the fact that it is comprehensible. Even if you're a person with average intelligence or below average intelligence, you have the ability to understand the deepest and most complex mysteries of the universe. A human invented the cell phone that you can now use to video call someone on the other side of the planet and see them as if they were right in front of you. A human invented the airplane back in 1903, which gave men the ability to fly above the ocean at an altitude of 30,000 feet and a speed of 400 miles an hour, higher and faster than any bird that ever lived or ever will live. A human figured out how to harness electricity, and now we can take the power of God's lightning and the sun and use them even when the sun isn't out and there are no lightning bolts around. All it takes is a simple flick of a switch and we now have the power of the sky. Humans are amazing. You are amazing. You are infinite potential. And I love you. Yo, thank you so much for watching. Our GoFundMe campaign is still live. We still need as much support as possible. We're trying to buy equipment. We're trying to buy publicists. We're trying to do shows. We're trying to do everything we can, and we need as much financial support as possible. So please help us spread love and positivity to the world. I appreciate that so much. The link is in the description. It'll be after the video. Also, you probably haven't been getting a lot of updates from us because Facebook works really stupid where even if you like our page, it doesn't even show updates on your page. So you have to follow us on like Instagram or SoundCloud or Twitter or YouTube. You gotta follow us somewhere else. It should be at the bottom of the video. Archduke Do Stuff everywhere. Archduke Do Stuff on Instagram. Follow us right now. Otherwise, you won't be seeing these updates unless somebody randomly shares it. Please, Archduke Do Stuff, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, whatever. We appreciate you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We love you.
Life got total. Life got total. Life got total. Life got total. I hopped out the Rickies, though. Hopped out the Rickies, though. Brand new. Hopped out the Rickies, though. Hopped out the Rickies, though. Brand new.
Of course, yeah. They're the first humans to ever walk Earth, right? Wrong. Did you know that you could use the Bible to accurately measure back to when they were created by God? No? Well, here we go. Genesis 5 gives us a full account of Adam's entire family tree and their full lifespans all the way to Noah when the flood happens. This gives us 1,656 years between the creation of Adam and the flood. Later in the Bible, we're told that Abraham was born 2 years after Noah's death. Well, Genesis 7:6 tells us that Noah was 600 years when the flood covered the earth. It also says that Noah died at 950 years old. Since Abraham was born 2 years after that, just add 352 to 1,656 and we get the years from Adam to Abraham. According to the Bible, there was 2,018 years between the birth of Abraham and the birth of Jesus. Jesus died at age 33. His crucifixion obviously was around 2,016 years ago. That's where we get our modern calendar from. That's why we call this the year 2016. This gives us a grand total of 6,175 years, give or take. That is how long ago God supposedly created the first humans according to the most read book of all time. Well, this human fossil is 30,000 years old. This human fossil is 100,000 years old. This human fossil is 160,000 years old. And this human fossil is 195,000 years old, all according to the Smithsonian Museum. But if God didn't create Adam and Eve until 6,000 years ago, who created these people? It seems that religion doesn't fully line up with the world that we see around us. Is God bigger than religion? Well, first we must realize that the concept of God is a fairly new thing. The Garden of Eden was said to be between the river of Tigris and the river of Euphrates. Well, those rivers are still around today, and they surround Iraq. And based on evidence from every monotheistic religion, it seems that this may indeed be where the Garden of Eden was. In ancient times, this land was called Samaria. Did you know that the world's first ever written words were found right here in Iraq? And the even weirder fact is that these first ever written words tell the story of Genesis, almost verbatim. Yet they were written thousands of years prior to the Bible. They tell about the Anunnaki, which means those who from the heavens came. These were beings that descended from the heavens and created a race of people called the Adamu, which may be where we get the name Adam from. They also say we will create man in our image, and these exact words are still written in the Bible. Except the ancient Sumerians clearly state that it was multiple beings and not God in three persons as modern day variations would have you believe. Well, guess when all of this was written? Just about 6,000 years ago, the same time we track Genesis back to. The story gets weirder. The first sign of agriculture was also found here about 6,000 years ago. The first ever statues and hieroglyphics and architecture and human history were also found here around 6,000 years ago. Although the human race has been around for at least 195,000 years. We were virtually ignorant cavemen until about 6,000 years ago. Every book, every pyramid, every language, every single thing humans have ever done worth talking about was created within the past 6,000 years. In fact, every religion on earth, period, can trace their origins back to just around 6,000 years ago. And they all tell the same story about beings coming down from the sky, teaching them about everything. Could the whole earth really be lying? It is researchable fact that the ancient Sumerians and the ancient Egyptians virtually came out of nowhere with full and complete knowledge and understanding of everything. They call it stair-step evolution. Humans had just been basically animals eating, sleeping, and mating for over 100,000 years. Then all of a sudden, about 6,000 years ago, boom. Math, science, language, agriculture, architecture, all at the same time out of nowhere. The Aztecs, Incans, Mayans, Sumerians, Egyptians, Romans, Greeks, Hindus, and even Christians and Muslims talk about beings coming from the sky teaching them all knowledge. And all human evidence supports that before these religions and cultures came about, humans were just regular unintelligent animals operating off instinct trying to survive like everything else. It's as if there was a worldwide alien invasion and the beings from the sky came down, mixed their DNA with ours, and created a new and improved human species. At the end of the day, the earth is 4.5 billion years old. It wouldn't make sense for God, the creator of the universe, to just now announce himself 6,000 years ago. So maybe these religions aren't talking about God, the creator of the universe, but rather God, the creator of us. That would explain a lot. Then it would make sense why God would put us in the Garden of Eden and then kick us out, and then after the entire earth was populated, destroyed in a giant flood and start over. Then after that didn't work, send his only begotten son to be born as a human to save mankind. For an all-knowing, all-powerful creator of the universe to do that wouldn't make much sense because he could have just created them properly in the first place. But for a very advanced being from another place gallivanting as God, who wasn't really all-knowing and all-powerful but merely just a genetic engineer of our species to do that, it would make sense that he might mess up a few times and have to start over. While we modern earthlings argue about who the true and living God is, the ancients walked and talked with these so-called gods. Many religions, including Christianity, actually talk about people mating with these gods and angels and creating giants called the Nephilim. We've even found the bones of these beings. Here, 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 and here. What happened approximately 6,000 years ago that turned us from cavemen to astronomers and preachers constantly looking towards the heavens for God? I don't know. But I do know I love you. Yo, one more thing. If you like that video and you like music too, then you can check out my music on soundcloud.com/archdukedostuff. soundcloud.com/archdukedostuff. We got a new album called Kids with Crowns. It's really dope. I think you like it. Follow Archduke Do Stuff on Instagram, Facebook, everywhere. Archduke, Archduke, Archduke. Check out our music, it's pretty dope. Peace. So then why did he create Lucifer knowing that he would become Satan and leave heaven with 1/3 of the angels? Why did he put Adam and Eve in the garden in the first place if he knew he was going to kick them out? Why did he let the whole world be populated if he knew he was just going to kill everybody except 8 people and 2 of each animal in a giant flood? Why didn't he just start off there? Like, why waste all that time? God's all powerful though, right? So why did he have to impregnate a virgin with himself to be born into flesh, live 33 years, and die as a sacrifice to himself to save the humans from the sin that he gave them in the first place? Why couldn't he just snap his fingers and sin be gone? And God is all loving, right? Then why create hell? If God is all knowing, then that means he knew before you were even born whether or not you were going to hell. That being the case, if you are going to hell, then that means it was in his will for you to go to hell. Is that loving? Why would God create a place of punishment for the sin that he gave you in the first place? Is that loving? Have you all ever thought about any of this? The place with the largest number of Christians on earth is the United States. We are also the place with the largest amount of prisoners on earth. Have you all ever thought about any of this? Well, whether you have or not, I love you.
Ooh, that is intense.
Peace is something that means a lot to me. I'd assume that is at least a background desire for most adult humans, and probably an underappreciated reality for most children. Sometime around teenage years, we begin to become scorned by the troubles of the world, most of which are just hypothetical, over-intellectualized worries we created in our heads, stories we repeatedly tell ourselves that we eventually believe. Fictional novels transformed into autobiographies, you know. At some point, we tend to forget that we are the authors of our own lives. And they really don't have to be tragedies or horror stories. They can be adventures, epics, romantic comedies even. But most importantly, they are self-written. We may not be able to choose all of our life circumstances, but we can choose our perceptions about them. My intention with this album is to remind people of that choice.
I got horns on the diner, hypnotic for hitting that nigga, that's a chaser. Turn nothing to something, that pimpin', that's a savior. Best things are green, that pimpin', whoa, whoa! I love my life. I can control it, girl. What's amazing is how we keep it blazing. Down under the door, we smoking to the daisy. Like, you're the person who knows the song. Sakura told me that clarity was essence, charity, don't forget it. So listen to who had the house song who used this type of instrument.
And do you want like a charity or like a charity? Boy, okay.
Yeah, I'm just talking.
Charity, this big thing.
The world told me to be minor. They say don't see major things, be wiser.
Of course, that can be turned down hella. So it don't feel like
Take that shit out. We'll take a shit. You motherfuckers better do your job and roll up and watch how we roll up. I can't control it, can't hold it, it's over. They take the sip of that yak, they wanna fuck.
primarily I got Banks, you know, and he's the engineer. Every other album I ever put out, I mixed and mastered myself. And although it was cool, the quality wasn't industry standard by no means. And so now the person who I got engineering the album is like, Banks is amazing. So had every other album that I ever had been engineered also by Banks of the same quality, then they also would have been amazing albums too.
Charity is great to work with because he's a true artist. He has his hands on in a lot of the process, or well, every part of the process rather. It's kind of a dynamic, right? We're like a duo. I'm mixing the project, but almost as a medium through him. I think I really like Mandark though. That's probably, it's just like such a, there's so much to it and it's so vast and the different sections. And it kind of kicked my ass, so like, that one.
Dexter, please don't tell me you're in here doing scientifically insignificant experiments again. You'll never be as smart as me, Dexter. You'll never be as smart as me, Dexter. Resistance is futile, Dexter. Surrender, Dexter! Surrender!
It's gonna be okay.
The unprofessional waits for inspiration to strike. But the professional realizes that inspiration will come after he starts. I used to never eat breakfast in high school or anything prior to that. Even in college, I didn't really eat breakfast. Just my health in general has been one of the primary things that's been keeping me away from where I want to be in life. So when shit in your esophagus happens right here, it makes you think that it's your heart. So you feel this pulsating, clenching feeling. In my short time here on Earth thus far, I've had the blessing of discovering a few facts about life that seem to be universally true. One of those is that life will require every individual to do the hard thing. And doing the hard thing will be imperative for every human being that intends on actualizing peace. For me, the hard thing has always been doing all the little mundane things about life that I don't feel like doing. Dishes, laundry, organizing, creating a routine, paying bills, even eating. Anything that requires order, discipline, or involves the not-so-pretty aspect of maintaining your day-to-day life, I have always avoided. Me and my best friend Jacob, who also struggles with the same issues, used to joke about it and say that to us, mess felt like furniture, like extremely difficult to move, yet seemingly comfortable enough to sit in. So we just let it sit there. We learned to sit in our mess, fester in our flaws. We would wear our shortcomings as a badge of honor, never once admitting to ourselves that we had stabbed this pen so deep into our chest that our vitality was bleeding out. Change then was no longer a choice. It became the holy fire to life. So whether the hard thing for you is embracing love or being seen or taking risks, you are going to have to walk through that fire in order to find the peace that you seek. And after death comes rebirth. Appreciate everybody for being here. This is the first time I'm about to play Satori 55.
Oh, it's so funny.
And we healthy, right? Satori 55 is about health and love and enlightenment and peace. So we drinking water, we toasting, and we living a good life. And this is a classic album. Life is wonderful. Life is remarkable. Satori 55 on 3. 1, 2, 3. Satori 55! Woo!
5, ready.
change up, change up. To find peace in my soul, I have to change up, change up. To find peace in my soul, lovely, lovely rose. Ones I never thought I'd find myself on fun.
I'm not gonna lie to you, my goal with creating this album was to make a classic work of art. When I think of a classic album, I think about something that's forever etched in people's memories. You know, like so much so that it's associated with events in one's life, like a time marker. This will be the album that got somebody out of depression. This will be the album that an old married couple used to play together on road trips when they were dating, right? Like, Satori 55 will be the catalyst for someone's awakening. It will be the timestamp for the period in someone's life when they began to recognize their personal power. My goal was to create like a wellness retreat in audio form. That being said, the person who pressed play at the beginning of track 1 will be a completely revitalized and renewed person by the time they press stop at the end of track 13. So, I don't know if you're watching this documentary a week before the album releases or 10 years later, but let these words that I'm speaking right now be evidence of that intention made manifest.
Discipline is my way, yeah. My life run through it. Just like a make up my mind and I do it. Each day I wake up, inhale the prana, exhale the drama, then I'ma get to it. Knew it was promised, my focus, hocus, pocus, cadabra. I'm the man, that shit. I make to the light, you can that shit. Am I working, where am I playing now, I get it. I clean my room, I fold the finish sheets. Organized like organized, I'm borderline that nigga. Like I am more than he, and I got orders, see.
What's good? My name is Charity Croft. Do you like Starbucks, the Beatles, and believe that women should be able to make whatever choices they want with their own bodies? Well, then you're probably a Democrat. Or do you like Toby Keith, Duck Dynasty, hunting, and believe that life starts at conception? If so, you're probably a Republican. And on the very small chance that none of this is true for you, then here's something that definitely is. Whichever political party that you chose to affiliate yourself with on your 18th birthday, there's almost a 100% chance that you will never join the opposite party. You may go independent or even leave the two-party system altogether, but most people never go to the other party. So in this video, I'll be explaining to you how political partisan and gang mentality are the exact same thing. You know what's the most important thing in a gang? Loyalty. Bloods need bloods to be bloods and never take the sides of Crips. Thus, blood becomes their identity. You see, humans in general have this innate desire to fit into what scientists call social identities. So liberals, bloods, Crips, conservatives, they all just want to fit in. In fact, scientists have proven that if you randomly assign strangers to red teams and blue teams, both groups will most likely befriend members of their own team and be antagonistic and suspicious of those on the other team. This is for no other reason than the colors that they're wearing. Sound familiar? The same mindset that makes us all root for the USA team in the Olympics is the exact same mindset that makes us say, support our troops. And sure, we should support our troops, but what happens when our country is murdering millions of innocent people in other countries? Are their lives any less important because they're not on the same team as us? Things like God bless America seem like really nice phrases until we consider how they instill a very particular loyalty in us that is dismissive of all those who may oppose our nation. So here's a math problem for you. What do you get when you add the desire to conform to the desire to exercise power over others? Ego-driven human nature. In August 1971 at Stanford University, psychology professor Philip Zimbardo conducted a prison experiment. They took 24 psychologically stable students and separated them into two groups, prisoners and guards. The simulation was supposed to last 2 weeks, but had to be stopped in just 6 days because the pretend guards became increasingly sadistic and abusive to the pretend prisoners. Despite the fact that they were all classmates, when one half was put in a position of power, they began to demean, abuse, and even torture the other students. They fell in love with their role. It gave them an identity. When we do this, our brains begin to lose the ability to empathize with anybody outside of our group, and we label all those outsiders as the opposition. Oftentimes, we even lose the ability to constructively criticize those within our groups. This is why so many Republicans act blind to even the objectively stupid things that Donald Trump may do, because they just need to defend him and show allegiance to their party. But who are you outside of the roles you've chosen to play? Everything from sports to race relations to the battle of the sexes echoes the same separatist mentality that leads to war, hate, domination, subjugation, and all the things that make the world suck. We exile all those who do not echo our sentiments and write them off as the stupid, idiotic enemy who is not worthy of our love, mercy, or tolerance. Because there is no way that that disgusting, annoying imbecile could be a human. But they are humans. Whether white or black or Syrian or conservative or Lakers fan or feminist, that person that you do not agree with is a human. A human that's mind has been shaped by its environment, just like yours. And every bit of decency and love and care and happiness that you are worthy of, so are they. That role that they have chosen to play, it's not them. That role that you have chosen to play, or even those that you did not choose, are not you. You are human. So are they. To both of you, I say I love you. One more thing. So first of all, thank you so much for all the support that you guys have given over the years. I greatly appreciate it. I just started my very own Patreon. I'm so excited. This allows you to sign up for newsletters, behind the scene content, videos, secret stuff that only patrons get. And yeah, you get to join the community to help push these videos and raise awareness of love and empathy throughout the world. Help fund this, help build this world into a better place. Please, please help me to change this world. I thank you all so much. It's patreon.com/charitycroft. Please sign up. The description is, the link is in the description. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. I love you. What's good? My name is Charity Croft. Everything you ever wanted, you can have right now. What are your goals? Weight loss, more money, more happiness, more peace? Well, your New Year's resolution is absolutely guaranteed to come true with 4 very simple steps. Visualize, believe, feel it, and receive. Oh no, here's the part where everybody gets scared and say he's about to talk about the law of attraction, a bunch of mumbo jumbo that doesn't work. I understand you. It's probably very hard to believe that everything you ever wanted is that easy to achieve. Well, here's a list of people that you may know that swear by this concept. Oprah, Will Smith, DJ Khaled, Jim Carrey, Denzel Washington, Steve Harvey, Big Sean, Floyd Mayweather, Conor McGregor, Diddy, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Lady Gaga. The list literally goes on and on forever and includes the vast majority of every celebrity you've ever heard of. But even if I just add up the net worths of the people that I just mentioned, that number equals out to $5,567 million. So yeah, you can spend your life believing that the law of attraction is a bunch of made up BS and have your life remain exactly where it is, or you can sit back, relax, and listen to this $6 billion game I'm about to put you on. Step 1, visualize. What is it that you want? You want to lose 50 pounds? Well, see yourself right now in your mind's eye with the body that you always dreamed of. Imagine yourself looking in the mirror, smiling with so much joy at the amazing state of health your body is in. You want more money? See yourself looking at your bank account with the exact amount of money that you always wish you had. We spend so much time thinking about what we don't want. You know those people that are always sick and always complaining about being sick? That's why. They're putting all of their attention on what they don't want instead of what they do want. Every time you think a thought, your brain is sending out a physical vibration attracting similar things to you. Like attracts like. If you think and visualize and see only the things that you want in your mind, then they must become a reality. So every day, close your eyes and visualize exactly what you want to happen in your life as if it was happening right now. Make this a daily ritual. You will see results as long as you do that and also follow these other 3 steps. Step 2, believe. When people wake up and say they woke up on the wrong side of the bed or today's gonna be a long, hard day, that's exactly what happens. The universe responds to your belief. So if you wanted $1 million tomorrow, that can actually happen as long as you really believe it to be possible. You're going to have to start being unrealistic, Disconnect from this idea that life is hard. Life is easy. Everything is happening in your favor. Everything you desire is coming to you right now. Peace, happiness, joy, money, success. It is yours right now. Do you believe it? Just try it. There's nothing bad that can come of you believing for the next few days that everything is happening in your favor. Isn't that better than being negative? Isn't that better than unhappiness? Isn't that better for your sanity than expecting trouble to come? Well, try it. It will work. Just follow these steps. The next and most important step is to feel it. This third step is the one that so many people miss, and that's why they feel like the law of attraction doesn't work. People assume that all you have to do is think about what you want and then you'll get it. That's true, but that's only the first half of it. The most important part is that you have to feel how you would feel if you already had it. If you want $1 million, then you can't just think of $1 million. You gotta scream, celebrate, I got $1 million! Feel like how you would feel if you had $1 million. Feel those excited butterflies in your stomach that you would absolutely feel if you had everything that your heart desires. You have everything you ever want. Feel that joy. Feel it. That is what attracts it to you. The universe responds to your vibration, your energy, your emotion. It doesn't matter how much you think about having money if you still feel like you're broke. If you're walking around with this woe is me attitude, then that's what you're sending out, and that's what you're going to receive regardless of what your thoughts are. So be happy. Celebrate right now. Feel good right now. You have peace right now. Think about that person or that thing that makes you most happy and latch on to that right now. Feel that joy. Feel that peace right now. That gratitude. Your life is amazing. It's going up. Everything is working in your favor. The world is yours. The world is mine. There is enough abundance for everybody. So much joy, so much happiness is coming to you right now. Feel that. Know that. Last but not least, step 4, receive. Allow the cards to fall as they may. They will always fall in the way that is perfect for you. Don't worry about how it's going to happen. Your job is to never worry about how. You only need to think about what. What do you want? Do you know what you want? Well, it is yours. It will happen. Allow it. Feel it. Believe it. Visualize it. And it's yours. Joy is yours. Joy is mine. Peace is yours. Peace is mine. Success is yours. Success is mine. You are the creator of your own reality. Make it amazing. I love you. What's good? My name is Charity Crawford. Have you ever thought about the fact that God has a penis? I mean, seriously, according to Christianity and Islam, the top 2 religions on earth that account for a total of 3.4 billion people, 53.1% of the human population, the creator of the heavens and the earth is consistently referred to as the Father, Him, He that is in me, a male. Why is that? Also, have you ever thought about the fact that according to the Bible, the original sin, like the first bad thing ever done by a human, was committed by a female? Why is that? I mean, of course, we could just accept these for objective truth and say that's just how it is. That's just the way it happened. Or we could question it and ask, how has the creator of the universe being male and the creator of sin being female affected the society in which we live? Well, here's a not so fun fact. According to the Institute for Women's Policy Research, in 2014, women only earned 79 cents for every dollar earned by a male. A gender wage gap of 21%. That means that if a male and a female have the exact same job position doing the exact same work, the human with the vagina will earn 21% less just for having a vagina. Now, why is that the case? Well, maybe men are just smarter and thereby deserve more money. Or maybe men have better degrees and thereby deserve a higher pay rate for higher education. That would make sense. However, according to Ali Bidwell at US News and World Report, in 2013, women were 21% more likely to have a bachelor's degree than men and 48% more likely to have a doctorate degree than men. So that ain't it either. And this is just recent stats. If we look historically at even America, which is known as arguably the most democratic and free nation on earth, women didn't get the right to vote until 1919, 143 years after the country was founded. It took the forefathers having kids and their kids having kids and their kids having kids and those kids growing up to become adults before we even realized that women were capable of selecting someone for political office. They didn't think they were capable of picking political leaders, much less being a leader. Speaking of which, have you ever read 1 Timothy in the New Testament of the Bible? It was supposedly written by Paul the Apostle, who also wrote Romans, 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, Galatians, Colossians, Philippians, Philemon, and 1 Thessalonians. He made some comments on female leadership saying, "A woman should learn in quietness and full submission. I do not permit a woman to teach or to assume authority over a man. She must be quiet. For Adam was formed first, then Eve. And Adam was not the one deceived. It was the woman who was deceived and became a sinner. But women will be saved through childbearing if they continue in faith, love, and holiness with propriety." Now, besides the fact that he's saying women should be quiet, is Paul also suggesting that the spiritual salvation of the entire female gender is contingent upon their ability to have babies? That kind of sucks. Now, keep in mind, Paul is not Jesus and is therefore not the shining beacon of Christianity. Although he calls himself an apostle and is known as Paul the Apostle, according to biblical scholars, there is no point in the Bible in which Jesus actually appoints Paul an apostle. He appointed the 12 apostles. We all know them. Paul was not one. Nevertheless, this is still very clear misogyny and female subjugation written in the most popular book on earth by the guy who wrote a very large chunk of that very book. You ever walk into a room full of people and say, "Hey guys, what's up?" Well, guys is a masculine word that can be used even when women are present. However, if you were to walk in that very same room and say, "Hey girls, what's up?" people would probably look at you funny and wonder why you didn't acknowledge the fact that men were present. You were being inconsiderate. Even in Spanish, the word muchachos can be used to refer to a group of men or a group of men and women. However, muchachas can only be used in a group of all women. It could be 1,000 women present, even if there is just one man in the room. The entire group must now be referred to as muchachos, a male term. Women have been consistently treated as the lesser gender despite the fact that there is no evidence to support the claim that they are indeed lesser. So what is the difference between women and men? Well, according to the U.S. National Library of Medicine at the National Center for Biotechnology Information, women are only 52% as strong as a male in the upper body and only 66% as strong in the lower body. If we take the average of those two numbers, we find that a woman is only 59% as strong as a man of the exact same size. Just a little over half. That means that no matter how smart a woman is, how accomplished she is, or how cool any of her ideas are, we as men have the physical strength to pin her against the wall and take away all of her accomplishments and snatch away all of her thoughts and claim them as our own. Think about how many inventions and discoveries may have actually been done by a woman. But then a man came and smacked her in the mouth and told her to shut up and submit to my dominance. And then took all the credit for her discoveries and was thereby glorified as a genius or a pioneer. Think about how much of history may be false. I guess that's why it's history and not her story. In conclusion, I'll say this. Have you ever been really afraid to do something and someone called you a PUSSY? Or have you ever been really courageous and brave and they said, "Man, you got some nuts. Man, you got balls"? Well, anatomically speaking, the weakest thing on the human body, whether male or female, is the scrotum, the balls. On the other hand, the strongest body part capable of withstanding big, huge man slamming against it, capable of pushing out entire human bodies while the bones around it literally break and rebuild themselves. The very portal into this dimension is the vagina. So the next time someone calls you a PUSSY, know that they are calling you the strongest structure the human could ever create. I love you.
What's good? My name is Charity Croft. You know what's super annoying? When we as black people try to talk to white people about their privilege. We'd be like, "Hey friend, I know that you're not a racist, murdering slave owner, but you still do benefit from a historical system of white supremacy that has put your people at the top and my people at the bottom." And then they respond like, "No, bro, my nigga, I'm the furthest thing from privilege. And racism is basically over. I'm struggling just like you." And in all honesty, if you guys would just like focus on building up your families and stop, you know, selling drugs, you'd be better off. Of course, this is a response completely rooted in privilege, and only someone that is totally unaffected by racism can say something as crazy as racism is basically over. Well, check this out. That's the same type of stuff that we as black men always say to black women every time they try to check us on our male privilege and sexist ways. We just act like they the ones tripping and we tell them they're really not being oppressed by men and it's all in their heads. We can only say something as crazy as that because we are not the ones being affected by that type of oppression. And that's why straight black men are the white people of black people. And I know what all the bros thinking. Nah, bro, you tripping. Don't you know we out here getting shot by the police like dogs? Michael Brown, Freddie Gray, Eric Garner, Trayvon Martin. Women ain't gotta deal with that, bro. They ain't gotta deal with that like we do. Yeah, bro, that is messed up. But have you ever heard of Alberta Sproul, Miriam Carey, and Michelle Cassell? Yeah, me neither before I started making this video, but those are the names of unarmed black women who were also killed by the police but got no media attention. In fact, black women are actually murdered by the police at higher rates than black men are, but their stories are left untold because it's not as interesting to talk about women who die. This means that even in death, black men are acknowledged more than black women. We black men are not nervous walking past a group of black women, while on the other hand, they are petrified walking past a group of us because 1 in 5 black women will be brutally raped at some point in their lives. Black women are expected to be independent, but not too independent that they're not a little submissive to their king. Black women are expected to be smart and pretty, but not too pretty because then we'll think they're not that smart and that they only get to where they are because they're pretty. And you know what happens when a black woman gets angry? We say, see, that's why you ain't got no man. As if their value as a human is predicated upon whether or not a man likes them. Meanwhile, we men never have to worry about that. A black woman could be a multi-millionaire. If she doesn't have a man, we treat her like something is wrong. Like women are still socialized in 2018 to believe that the 2 most important days of their life are prom and their wedding day. The 2 days when a man chooses them. When I, as a straight black man, walk into a room full of black women or queer black men, I am immediately seen as some sort of an authority figure. When I go to the cookout, I am immediately given the big piece of chicken. And as Damon Young, a very smart brother, says, I am given the biggest piece of chicken and the biggest seat at the table despite making the smallest contribution to the meal. And then guess what? My grandmama gonna tell whatever woman I arrived with that she better go make my play while I sit and play dominoes with my cousin because I'm a man. We treat women like objects. We put them next to fancy cars in our music videos because we see them like cars. Something to ride and then dispose of when we're done. Something we can just put in park and sit in the garage and expect it to be there when we're done doing whatever. Something, it, an object. Women feel the need to lie about their sexual partner so they're not perceived as hoes, while we men pride ourselves on how many women we have sex with. And let's be honest, we don't even really have sex with them because that would imply some type of a connection. We usually just use women as human masturbation devices, sex toys. And then gay black men, they are ridiculed on a daily basis by straight black men, and ironically, it's not even usually because of the fact that they like to have sex with men. That's the interesting part. We as a society don't tend to hate gay men because they are gay. We hate gay men because they act like women. For some reason in this world, the closer you are to the feminine end of the spectrum, the less value we tend to give you. That's why even straight men that are a little more in tune with their feminine side tend to hear, quit acting like a girl, man up, don't be a sissy. Straight black men get to be angry, nasty, sexual, rude, aggressive, or whatever they want to be, and they're just being a man. But if a black woman displays any of those exact same traits, she is a bitch, a hoe, catty, messy, whatever. Black men can essentially be anything they want to be within the black community, except emotional. Because that means they're feminine, and then that means they're gay, and then that means they're acting like a woman, and then that means they're less of a man. A man, the God-given position that deems you as an authority to which your woman must bow. Being a black man gives you the freedom to just exist and have no judge in society except maybe white people. While being a black woman means that your life rests not only in the judgmental gaze of white people, but also all men. Being a black woman puts you in this weird intersection between being both black and being a woman, dealing with white supremacy and patriarchy, 2 forms of oppression at the same time. If we as black men don't acknowledge our position of privilege in comparison to black women, then we are no different than the white people that don't acknowledge their position of privilege in relation to us. I love you.
What's good? My name is Charity Crop. Did you know that the guy who created the word Homo sapiens also created what we call race? Yeah, Carl Linnaeus, the founder of biology, put us in 4 groups: European, African, Asiatic, and the wild man of America. Then he gave each race characteristics. The European was gentle, inventive, and governed by laws. The Asiatic was severe, covetous, and governed by opinions. The African was lazy, negligent, and greasy. And the wild man of America was obstinate and content-free. This was in the first biology book, people. But see, none of these races actually existed. The entire idea that there even are races was only created in order to prove the superiority of white people. Tell him, Jacob.
It all started with the Spanish Inquisition. Columbus got lost in America and ran into these red people. Well, basically they started killing them, taking over their land, and they needed to justify what they were doing. So they started calling them the barbaric red man who wasn't really human, the savage Indian who was incapable of running their own world, incapable of becoming Christian, wasn't even created by God. They made up this whole story that any people that weren't white must not have come from Adam and Eve and thus weren't even human at all.
It's like those zombie video games where you just shoot all the zombies. I mean, they're not human, so just kill them. Obviously, it was proven that all humans are human, so then they just said that we all degenerated from white people. The scientists of the time assumed that humans must have started white and then devolved darker and darker. As people moved from their beautiful European origins, they gradually became less white and thus less human. Johann Blumenbach is the guy who created anthropology and the word Caucasian. He believed that the original white man was the most beautiful and closest to representing God's image. Because even anthropology was only created to prove the superiority of white people.
I know by now you're thinking, man, white people are interesting. But so-called black people of today mirror this same exact type of thinking. The Nation of Islam teaches that black people are the true humans created by God, and that a mad scientist named Yaqub grafted the evil white devil from black people. But where did this idea that evilness can be inherited through genes even come from?
Probably from the same people who created race. Paracelsus lectured that all non-white people came from the same being that created nymphs and griffins and were essentially beings without souls. That may sound like crazy talk, but a lot of us black people believe a similar type of logic today. Dr. Layla Africa and Carol Barnes are huge leaders in the so-called woke movement that's happening today. They believe that melanin, in addition to making our skin dark, is the reason that black people are not aggressive savages. According to them, how civilized the human is directly correlates with the amount of melanin they have. And without just the right amount of melanin, you don't have access to the spiritual realms and you are soulless. Isn't it interesting that this is the exact same thing that whites said about blacks when race was first invented? So you know David Hume and Immanuel Kant, they were the fathers of the Enlightenment. They created the idea of morality. They argued that never was a civilized nation of any other complexion but white. During this time of social Darwinism, people thought that whites ruled because of survival of the fittest, and thus treating all other races like crap was the moral thing to do. They claimed colored people created no arts and sciences and have never developed beyond barbarism. And today we say the same about whites. We say they stole everything from Egyptians and other cultures, and essentially they have no culture. White people can't dance. Black people have soul. Asians do math. Mexicans work hard. All of these stereotypes we assign to race when race itself is imaginary.
No, Charity. We can see race. Whites and blacks can be told apart just as easily as chihuahuas and pit bulls. What next? Are you gonna tell us that dog breeds don't exist?
Yes, I am. This social construct that we know as dog breeds is just the result of people mating dogs that had a certain look with other dogs that looked similar. They did it over and over until they created this very incestual thing that we call breeds. What we now know as mutts are actually normal dogs. And what we call purebreds is just the Frankenstein creation of people mating dogs with their brothers and sisters until they looked like it was a breed. Dog breeds didn't even exist before about 100 years ago, and dog breeding became popular at the exact same time that human breeding became popular. It was called eugenics, the plan to create a superior Aryan race, blonde hair, blue eyes. The creator of psychology, William James, came up with the idea of human instinct and believed that drunkenness, insanity, prostitution, and criminal behavior were all the inherited traits of people without pure blood. Psychology was created to prove the superiority of white people. They believed intelligence was an inherited trait. Lewis Terman, the guy who invented the IQ test, wanted to prove that Anglo-Saxon Nordic Europeans were the only intelligent people. The test included questions such as,
Christy Mathewson is famous as Becky Sharp appears in.
These were stupid questions that you wouldn't know the answer to if you weren't rich and white, and thus everyone who wasn't rich and white failed and was scientifically proven to be inferior. And they blamed it all on your DNA. This same idea of character traits being biological eventually led to the Nazis, Adolf Hitler, the Nation of Islam, 5 Percenters, the KKK, and every other organization that aims to prove that there are innate racial differences. There are mean black people and amazing black people.
Woke whites, horrible whites.
World-conquering Asians, enlightened Asians.
Nice pit bulls, mean chihuahuas.
And actually none of that is true because the distinctions between all of them are completely made up. What's the difference between these two people?
I know, one is white and one is black.
No, the truth is both Barack Obama and Logic are half black and white. But since one appears more white, we call him white, and the other appears more black, so we call him black. There is no natural definition of racist, and we made all of that up to prove the superiority of white people. Race is fake, but racism is real, and the only way to eliminate racism is to start teaching the absolute fact that there is no such thing as race. At that point, racism will not have a context to even exist within. We humans just want to categorize things and prove our theories. Two people look different, so they must be different. Most white people rule the world, so they must be evil. Most black people are less educated than white people, so they must be dumb. The real truth, though, is always much more complex, and every culture has a slew of historical circumstances that created what we see today. The only true evil that lies within the human is the ego. The idea that you and I are different, and since we are different, one of us must be better. This is an evil that lies deep within all humans and is the surest proof that we are all the same. Unlearn, open your mind, and start over. I love you. One more thing, we just wanted to say thank you from the bottom of our hearts for all the love and support that you've given us in the past year. This has been the most amazing year of our life. We still have our GoFundMe link because we still need the monetary resources. We've reached over 100 million people with our message to bring love to this world, and we're trying to get it to 1 billion. So if any way you want to support, GoFundMe.com/Archduke. I thank you so much. I appreciate you so greatly. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you.
What's good? My name is Charity Cross. So according to Ben Shapiro, America is the least racist, most open country in the world. Welcome to the Straight White Male's Guide to Oppression. Sit back, relax, and gain some perspective other than your own. Dear straight white men, according to NPR, 92% of African Americans believe that racial discrimination is a prevalent issue in America. So either you think we're so stupid that we can't form observations about our own lives, or you're not listening.
Dear straight white men, no one wakes up in the morning with this idea of oppression. It doesn't make us feel all warm and fuzzy inside to be victims.
Dear straight white men, LGBTQ youth are almost 5 times as likely to have attempted suicide compared to heterosexual youth.
Dear straight white men, 92% of transsexuals have attempted suicide. Dear straight white men, people usually attempt suicide due to a lack of support and acceptance from the society around them.
Dear straight white men, you created the society around them.
Dear straight white men, it is your responsibility to help fix the society around them.
Dear straight white men, hate speech does incite violence. And yes, I know that you're not a racist, sexist, xenophobic, homophobic bigot, but you have to understand that there are very many people that are, and your rhetoric that consistently minimizes the very real trauma that people face validates the overtly oppressive behavior that those who listen to you may commit.
Dear straight white men, intersectionality is not choosing to be the victim of multiple forms of systemic oppression. It is actually being the victim of multiple forms of systemic oppression. And you are the victor.
Hooray! Dear straight white men, black people are not awarded the same socioeconomic opportunities as white people.
Dear straight white men, women are not awarded the same socioeconomic opportunities as men.
Dear straight white men, black women have to deal with both of those factors simultaneously.
You guys have hot sauce?
Dear straight white men, this is one of the countless reasons why we need intersectionality.
Dear straight white men, we live in a heteronormative patriarchy founded upon white supremacy. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is sociological fact based on documented evidence such as, the Constitution, which originally awarded political power only to those that were Caucasian landowners that had penises.
Dear straight white men, in that same document when they finally started to acknowledge the presence of slaves as part of the population, only 3/5 of the black population was counted, thus in essence, politically defining black people as only 3/5 human.
Dear straight white men, currently in 2018, the typical black household has just 6% of the wealth of the typical white household. Dear straight white men, property taxes are the primary source of school funding. This means the better the homes in a given neighborhood, the better the schools. Due to historical redlining and hoarding of wealth, the primary occupants of rich neighborhoods are white, and the primary occupants of poor neighborhoods are black and brown. So we tend to have worse schools, worse books, lower paid teachers, and thus less opportunity for upward financial progression.
Dear straight white men, this country was founded over 200 years ago on the genocide of Native Americans.
Dear straight white men, clearly old stuff done by your ancestors still does affect us to this day. Dear straight white men, slavery still affects black people to this day. Emancipation led to Jim Crow laws led to the war on drugs, and the war on drugs led to over-policing of our communities. Dear straight white men, the more the media casts black and brown people as barbaric savages who have somehow dug their own hole in the ground to no fault of systemic racism, then the more apathy and fear is embedded
embedded into the mass consciousness of our citizens that thereby validates racism and stagnates us in the exact same position.
Dear straight white men, going natural has only just become a mainstream trend in the black female community as of like the past 10 years.
Because it has taken us just that long to even begin to dismantle the self-hate that we developed from your ancestors telling us that the hair that grows out of our scalp is ugly.
Dear straight white men, I know you think that we think that your opinions don't matter, but that's not quite it. It's just that your opinions don't matter more than the actual lived experiences of real people.
Dear straight white men, the #1 beauty product in India is skin lightening cream.
Dear straight white men, your ancestors made everyone who doesn't look like you hate themselves.
Dear straight white men, Islam is not a race.
Dear straight white Christian men, Muslims believe in the same God as you.
Dear straight white men, Allah means God.
Dear straight white men, although we live in a heteronormative white supremacist patriarchy that puts you in an almost godlike position, God does not always have to look like you.
Dear straight white men, you are not God.
Dear straight white men, you do, however, have the godlike power to enact change. Dear straight white men, the world needs you to acknowledge the fact that the cards have been tipped in your favor and thereafter help us to level the playing field. Dear straight white men, this world has been created in your image, or maybe a better word is conquered. But if humanity is to push forward, then it must be redesigned to look like everybody's world. Dear straight white men, I believe in your ability to change for the better. Dear humanity, I love you. One more thing, thank you so much for watching that video. If you enjoyed it and you want to help me to continue to create content like that, please support my GoFundMe, gofundme.com/CharityCroft. The link is in the description. Help me to bring love and empathy and critical thinking and joy into this world. Any contribution, I appreciate it. I'm so grateful for you. GoFundMe.com/CharityCroft. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you. What's good? My name is Charity Croft. When speaking on Mexicans, Donald Trump said, and I quote, "They're rapists, and I assume some are good people." Well, according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, 73.9% of all rapists are white, 22.8% are black, and 3.3% are other. That very small other would include Mexicans, Asians, Native Americans, and every other race that is not black or white. So no, Mexicans are not the root of the rape problem in America. I know what you may be thinking. Of course the majority of rapists will be white because the majority of the country is white. That doesn't mean that Mexicans may not rape at a higher rate than white people. Well, according to the BJS National Crime Victimization Survey, for 2013, whites accounted for 71% of all sexual assaults documented, while they only make up 63% of the US population. Latinos, on the other hand, only accounted for 9%, far below their total percentage of 17% of the country. When speaking on ISIS, Donald Trump says, and I quote, "I would bomb the shit out of them, there'd be nothing left, and I'd take their oil." Unquote. Well, if you didn't know, ISIS stands for the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. To be more accurate, when Donald Trump says that he'd bomb the shit out of them, he's specifically referring to the oil fields, which seem to be the organization's primary source of income. Well, if you know anything about Iraq and Syria, then you know that a huge portion of their economy is based on this oil. According to the Pew Research Center, 91% of Iraqis are not in favor of ISIS. That being said, bombing the shit out of them and taking their oil would completely ruin the lives of 33.4 million Iraqis, or however many would be left alive after this attack. And let's keep in mind that 91% of these people are innocent people that do not favor ISIS in any way. As far as immigration, Donald Trump plans on deporting the more than 11 million undocumented illegals in our country and build a wall between America and Mexico. He's doing this because, according to him, undocumented illegals are costing us more than $200 billion a year and taking away jobs from American-born citizens. Well, I have found no research to support his claims that illegals are costing us $200 billion a year. The highest I found was according to the United States Census Bureau Current Population Survey, which said, under current law, all unlawful immigrant households together have an aggregate annual deficit of around $54.5 billion. But let's make it fun and assume it was $200 billion. We must first consider that 1 out of every 3 farm workers in America is an undocumented illegal immigrant. According to the USDA, the agriculture industry contributes $835 billion to the US gross domestic product yearly. So if we assume that removing 1/3 of the employees would at least affect 1/3 of the outcome, then by deporting all illegal immigrants, we are literally losing out on $278 billion of our national income. And that's if we're being nice and we assume that it would just affect 1/3 of the product. But realistically, if we were to fire 1/3 of all farmers, our entire agriculture industry would literally collapse. And I know what you're thinking. Well, we could just fill those positions with Americans that need jobs. No, actually both Alabama and Georgia tried to do mass deportations of illegals and it failed miserably both times. They couldn't find anybody to fill all those job positions because most Americans don't want to spend 12 hours in the fields picking crops. That being said, both states had to revoke their decision so that the immigrants would come back so that their farming industry wouldn't completely collapse. Georgia lost over $150 million worth of crops in the very short, very small level deportation that they did in comparison to what Trump is trying to do. Not to mention the fact that the idea of getting the resources, warrants, officers, and everything necessary to search the entire country, find 11 million undocumented people, and literally kick them out of the country is just like inconceivable. You would literally have to like dismantle families and chase people through the streets and into their houses and forcibly put them on planes and send them out of the country. Even if something as preposterous as that could work, according to the Wall Street Journal, it would take $400 billion to do it. Undocumented illegals are not eligible for Social Security, Medicare, Earned Income Tax Credit, food stamps, welfare. They contribute over $11.6 billion yearly to our economy and spending. They pay a higher effective tax rate than the richest 1% of the country, and our entire $835 billion agriculture industry is literally based on their labor, like it's founded upon it. Economically speaking, undocumented immigrants are arguably one of the most productive, beneficial aspects of American society. We should be begging for more of them. Finally, Donald Trump wants to secure our borders not only from undocumented immigrants, but from potential Muslim terrorists. Like literally ban all Muslims from entering. Listen, this large gray box represents all the gun-related injuries that happened in America in 2015. The smaller gray box represents the gun-related deaths of 2015. And that little tiny black box represents the mass shootings that happened in 2016 that we would consider terror. 0.5% of gun violence is related to terrorism. And get this, the vast majority of the terrorism in that little black box was committed by white Christian men. Islamic extremists only account for 2.6% of the mass shootings in America. That is 2% of 1/2%. This means that Muslim terrorism only accounts for 0.0001% of the gun violence in our country. The Orlando shooting was literally, statistically, scientifically a 1 in 10,000 occurrence. Meanwhile, an unarmed black man gets shot by the police every 28 hours. Almost every single day. We've got way bigger fish to fry. This video isn't necessarily to get you to not vote for Donald Trump. We don't care about that. We just want you to think for yourself. I love you. What's good? My name is Charity Crawford. If you live in America, there's a 99.99999% chance that you have never voted for the President of the United States. Every 4 years, there are only 538 people that actually vote for the President. You are almost certainly not one of them. So that thing you do in the voting booth every 4 years is not you electing a president. That is you participating in the Electoral College, which is a completely unfair, non-democratic system that we use to select the people that will select our leader for the next 4 years. It's a winner-takes-all system. That means whichever party has most of your state's votes gets all of your state's electors. That being the case, if you are not part of your state's majority party, you might as well stay home. According to Politico.com, there are only 11 states that will determine this year's election. As for the other 227 million people that live in the other states, your vote is completely irrelevant because we already know which way your state's going to vote. And even if you do live in one of those 11 states, again, your vote is completely irrelevant if you are not a part of your state's majority. So yeah, if you think all of this is completely unfair and stupid, it's because it is. Let's be clear. America is not now, nor has it ever been, a democracy. America is a constitutional republic. That's why the Pledge of Allegiance says, "And to the republic for which it stands." The forefathers designed our country this way. In an actual democracy, the citizens would directly vote for every single decision that was made. So like before the Iraq War, for example, there would have been a huge internet poll that might have said, should we go to war? Check yes or no, and whichever had the most votes would be what we do. But in a republic, we select leaders that make all these decisions for us. Now don't get me wrong, a republic is actually a very good idea, because in a true democracy, every decision would always go to the majority, which would suck. Like let's say for example, we had to vote on issues about race. Well, since our country is 64% white, those decisions would always go in favor of white people simply because it's more of them. So it makes sense to have a republic so that the leaders that represent us can be a little bit more diverse than the population itself. That's pretty cool. Except for the fact that we don't do that at all. Although our country is 64% white, our Congress is 80% white. Although our country is 51% female, our Congress is 80% male. And although 13% of our country is not religious at all, 92% of Congress is Christian. We might as well be in a white male Christian dictatorship. Oh, I'm sorry, a rich white male Christian dictatorship, because although the average American income is $51,939, the average net worth of a congressperson is $1 million. In fact, there are only 9 presidents ever who are worth less than $1 million, and like, barely. So the point is, democracy is supposed to be about the people. Well, the guys that make the rules in this country don't reflect we the people at all. The fact is, if you are not a rich white Christian male, then the people on Capitol Hill cannot relate to you. Like, you think they understand poor black Muslim woman concerns? Like, of course not. This ain't no democracy. What you mean? We can't really be mad at Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton for being so aloof and not being able to enact the policy that we need, because they're worth $1 billion and $45 million respectively. Like, they have no idea what it's like to be a lower class citizen, or even a middle class citizen, or even a regular rich person, because they are filthy rich. So how can we fix all of this? Well, we probably can't. The richest president ever was George Washington, who was worth $525 million in today's dollars. That being said, being ruled by the elite is literally etched into the foundation of this country. But there is something that we can do. What we can do is realize how powerful we as citizens still are. There is a direct correlation between intelligence and success. That being the case, if we want to expand our middle class and eradicate poverty, all we have to do is expand our knowledge and eradicate apathy. If you know anything about anything, it is your responsibility to teach someone else that knowledge. Start a community outreach program or an after-school initiative that teaches empathy and concern for others rather than trigonometry. You do not need a degree in education to teach. I dropped out of college, and through these videos I've educated more people than every teacher I ever had combined. If we want to have a perfect utopian society, that can happen. The only thing we need is more knowledge, more empathy, and more faith in ourselves. We have the internet, people. 90% of everything there is to know about anything can be found right on that phone in your hand right now. You are literally a Google search or a YouTube search away from infinity. Teach someone, love someone, and remind someone that they are limitless. After that point, the world will heal itself. I love you. What's good? My name is Charity Croft. Alton Sterling and Philando Castile were not murdered because they were black. Please don't turn this video off. This is not all lives matter bullshit. I promise you will completely understand me and maybe even agree with me by the end of this video, and at that point you'll be able to truly create change in this world. This is a butterfly. This is a spider. If you saw these 2 bugs in your house, which one would you kill and which one would you set free? The answer is obvious, so we won't waste time on that. Trayvon Martin, Sandra Bland, Tamir Rice, Eric Garner, and the countless other black people that have died at the hands of law enforcement were not killed because they were black. They were killed because in our culture we view most black people as spiders. Something to fear, something to be afraid of, something that will hurt you, something poisonous, something to be exterminated in order for it to avoid doing harm to you. That being said, none of these methods that we're talking about on social media to fix our problems will work. There is no need to riot in the streets. There is no need to protest. There is no need to demand justice. All of that is useless. Even if we were able to convict every officer that murdered an unarmed black man and then fire our entire police force and then fire our entire national government, that still wouldn't change anything. We as a society would still view black people as spiders. So that means that when we rehire an entirely new police force and then rehire an entirely new government, the new people would just get their jobs and start right back up killing black people. That's because we are not dealing with a systemic issue. We are dealing with a mental issue. It doesn't matter who is in that uniform or who is in that White House, because they would still think that niggas is spiders. Even niggas think niggas are spiders. I live in the middle of the hood in Gary, Indiana, right here in the real world where this shit is happening. Anybody that has a grandma or even regular parents in this type of community knows that when them dudes is posted up outside just chilling, not hurting nobody, but they got on a white t-shirt and sagging pants and hella jewelry on, your mama looking out the window like, what these niggas on? They better not try to run in my house and take none of my shit. They could literally be standing there discussing particle physics. It doesn't matter because even our mothers think we are criminals. I'm 25 years old. I've been to plenty parties. The black security guards act just as crazy as the white security guards. How many times have you seen security literally throwing and tackling dudes? This don't have shit to do with race. This has to do with the fact that our entire American society, including black people, views the young black man in a hoodie as a threat. So what can we do to change this? We start by taking off the mask. This how I look on a regular day. No shirt and tie, hella jewelry on, tattoos, daddy hat. Although in my educational videos, I put on this kind, proper voice and talk to you guys about science. We black people do that shit as a survival method. If you used to see me on a regular day with this camera off and I'm talking to my friends, you might hear me like, hey, what's good, nigga? Y'all finna fade that party? Hell yeah, we finna be in that bitch, nigga. We gonna turn that hoe up, nigga. Oh God. That's me in real life. I'm sure many of my white fans are shocked that I could even speak in such a manner. Like, wow, after seeing your in-depth political analysis on Donald Trump, I wouldn't imagine that you'd mangle the English language like that. Why would you even limit yourself? It's not limited, nigga. That's how niggas talk. We put that proper voice on so we can eat out here, bruh. Imagine if President Obama decided that from now until the election in November, he was gonna wear sagging jeans, a black hoodie, and a gold grill to every meeting, interview, and press conference. Imagine how that would literally change the face of our society. At first it'll appear like he's dressing like a thug, but once we realize that that might just be who he is, and he ends up doing his greatest work yet while wearing that outfit, then what we once thought was the appearance of a thug is now the appearance of a president. The leader of the free world. Suddenly spiders become humans. We black people need to realize that the more that we put on our suit and tie and proper voice and try to assimilate to mainstream society, we are helping pull the trigger on another black life. We're helping the world divide us into good Negroes and bad Negroes, the almost humans and the spiders. We must be our full black selves 100% of the time so the world knows that there is no such thing as he looked like a criminal. You know why? Because we're all wearing hoodies and we all speaking slang, yet we still carrying this entire nation on our backs. Many of us are what you Americans would call spiders. And guess what? We live amongst you and we work with you at your jobs wearing butterfly costumes. We change the way we speak, walk, and act, all so that we will not be killed. Ironically, that has a lot to do with why we're being killed. You're afraid of us, America, and you taught us how to be afraid of each other. Yes, it is true that black people kill black people at a higher rate than white people or the police kill black people. But you know why, America? It's because you enslaved us for 400 years, and once we were free, you threw us in the ghetto with no money and no power. And you made us obsessed with money and power. And so we kill each other for that money and power. And as a result, you think we are the scum of the earth, so even you kill us, never once realizing that you engineered us to be scum. But we were not born spiders. You turned us into that. This country does not need another riot. This country does not need another war. This country needs a brain transplant. White people, yellow people, red people, and even black people need to realize that all black people are humans. Black people need to build up our communities as other races do and become self-sufficient and peaceful so that we aren't killing each other for resources and that we don't need to depend on mainstream society. We need to turn every hood into a village. We need to turn every ghetto into Timbuktu and genuinely treat every human with love while supporting our own. America, I am a 25-year-old black man. I am extraordinarily intelligent with a near genius IQ, and I'm a hood nigga. But that doesn't make me dangerous. I will not hurt you. Please don't hurt me. I love you. One quick final announcement, one little small piece that can move us in the right direction. On July 16th in East Chicago, Indiana, at Todd Park, there is a festival called Party in Peace. There will be Archduke performing, we got Wale, Ty Dolla $ign, all of us, 10,000 people united in peace. There's so much going on in this country, so much drama, so much war, so much hate. It's even festering in us as black people. You're hearing about people shooting police. That is not the answer. July 16th in East Chicago, Indiana. If you're anywhere near there, just come. Party in peace, 10,000 people united in love and happiness and truth, and let's make a difference. Let's build community. I love you. I thank you so much. Yeah.
Might cop me a chain, ice nine. Frost in my brain, I'm often of late nights. Just writing a great rhyme. My thoughts are the same, that's love, loose and fit.
What's good? My name is Charity Cross. So yeah, I know you love all black girls, but you kind of just prefer that light skin John with the good hair popping, right? True. And ladies, ain't nothing wrong with little Michael Ealy, right? Bro, that nigga got blue eyes. Well, actually, there's a lot wrong with that, and I'm about to tell you how even you have allowed the colonizers to oppress you and make you hate yourself. We live in a world where the closer you are to whiteness, the more beautiful it's believed that you are. So yeah, I know you think it's just your own personal taste that makes you attracted to the light skins, but actually it's because you were systemically brainwashed to hate African features. The perm was invented in 1913 by Garrett Morgan. Innovators like Madam C.J. Walker became insanely rich from this chemical straightener used to make African hair more presentable, i.e. make it more like white people's. Since then, perms and weaves and wigs have been used virtually as a means of survival for black people that are consistently pressured by the white-dominated beauty industry to meet standards that are not natural for people of African descent. But forget all that, this don't got nothing to do with you. You woke, you poppin', you don't even like light-skinned niggas, they weak as hell, right? You want you a strong, rough-neck, chocolate nigga that'll hold you down, right? Well, you, my sister, are brainwashed. As you probably know, during the times of slavery, the lighter-skinned black people were allowed to stay in the house and do less strenuous work than the darker-skinned laborers of the field. Because their phenotypic appearance more closely resembled that of white people, they were allotted more privileges than their darker-skinned counterparts. Since the lighter-skinned Negroes have historically had it easier in our culture, we began to attribute traits of softness and weakness to them. And as woke as we think we are right now, we still make jokes about acting light-skinned, showing our perpetual hate for ourselves due to white dominance. So yeah, if you like light skin and dark skin, but you still just make light skin jokes from time to time, then even you are still suffering from an oppressive mental condition that sparked when your family was considered cattle. Anyway, you know the most common compliment I get? Boy, you got so pretty eyes! Although I appreciate the compliment, I'm aware that my eyes are only considered pretty due to their correlation with whiteness. It's always the green or the blue or the hazel eyes that get complimented. You know, the colors that usually white people have. That melanated dark brown though, them just regular eyes, quit playing. So yeah, everywhere in the world where white people have conquered, it is considered more attractive to have light skin. The #1 beauty product in India, skin lightening cream. The #1 beauty product in Jamaica, skin lightening cream. Any feature on the human body that is more African in nature, we tend to prefer the white variation of it. We tend to like smaller noses, smaller eyes, looser hair. In fact, the only things that we like that are generally considered black traits are the sexual ones. Big booties, big lips, thick thighs, wide hips, big penis. So on the very rare occasion that white people get work done to appear more black, they only tend to enhance these very sexual features. Even this is rooted in slavery. Black women were put on display as freaks of nature, so slave owners would rape the black women because of their big butts, and the white women would also have sex with the Negro men, usually because of their big black cocks. And still to this day, we as black people tend to only value our darker skinned brothers and sisters based on how much we like to do them or how well they can fight. It is this that leads to the over-sexualization of black women and the criminalization of black men. So on a higher note, you are brainwashed. Your mama is brainwashed. All your cousins is brainwashed. Do white people have cousins? Anyway, here's the moral of the story. Race is a social construct. These are Italian people. These are German people. These are Irish people. But these are black people. Now why is it that black has so many colors? Well, it's because in the times of slavery, they invented something known as the one-drop rule, which meant that just one drop of black blood would taint your beautiful whiteness and make you thereby known as a nigger. This is why even when someone is half black and white, we much more often identify them as black. It's because historically, any bit of blackness was considered a filthy defilement of white purity, and as a result, we have countless shades of so-called black people that are all consistently reminded that they are better, prettier, nicer, and smarter the closer they are to white. 150 years later, and this conditioning still affects not just black people, but every brown person on earth. But you are beautiful. Your hair is good hair, your nose is magnificent, your eyes are gorgeous, and I urge you to love every drop of colorful blood within you and know that it is filled with melanated magic. I love you.
One more thing, thank you so much for all the support that you've given. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. I actually just started a Patreon, and I'm just trying to keep making these videos, so if anything you can do to help support, please do. It's in the description, www.patreon.com/CharityCroft. I thank you so much. You want to watch my videos, go to YouTube, Charity Croft, follow me, subscribe. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you.
What's good? My name is Charity Croft. Black Lives Matter is a racist hate group that's primary purpose is to murder the entirety of the American police force and create a new society in which black people are the rulers and the only ones that actually matter. No, that's actually not true at all. And if you believe that any part of that statement is even slightly true, then you do not understand the Black Lives Matter movement at all. And as far as this subject is concerned, you are a dummy. And that's fine. We're all dummies at something, but we're about to change that right now because this video is for you. In the year 2015 alone, 1,134 black men were murdered by the police, making us 9 times more likely to be killed than any other American is. Still yet, there has been no reform of the American police force at all. But that's just the surface. According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, black people make up 37% of the prison population, despite only making up 13% of the country. That means we are arrested at 3 times the rate that we should be. Conversely, white people only make up 32% of the prison population, despite making up 63% of the country. That means they are arrested at only half the rate that they should be. And of course, I know what you're thinking.
Well, black people commit more crime. That's why they're in prison more. Just stop doing the crime.
False. Black people are arrested and sentenced more than white people. There's no research to support the claim that we actually commit more crimes. But whatever, what else you got for me?
Well, still, black people kill black people way more than police kill black people. Apparently, black lives don't matter to black people.
Good job. You're actually right about that one. But here's where it gets fun. Let's find out why black people kill each other more. Well, according to the BJS, 64% of all inmates in America do not have a high school diploma. Education and violent crime are so closely linked that State Farm Insurance and the Alliance for Excellent Education's report shows that if male graduation rate was improved by just 5%, that would decrease overall annual incidents of assault by 60,000, larceny by more than 37,000, motor vehicle theft by more than 31,000, and burglaries by more than 17,000. The school to prison pipeline is a real thing, people. There is countless evidence to support the fact that the worse schooling you have, the worse you tend to do in our society. Well, now, who has the worst schools? Black people. According to US News and World Report, we have the lowest math and reading scores in every single grade. We are less likely than whites to have an associate degree or a bachelor's degree or a master's degree. We are read to less, told a story less, given arts and crafts less. Even the chances of us visiting a library before the age of 5 are severely less. But you know what we're more likely to do? We're more likely to not graduate high school at all, twice as likely to be exact. We're 3 times more likely to be held back than white children, and also black children are 3 times more likely to be suspended or expelled. And yes, I know what you're thinking.
Well, it's not my fault your kids aren't doing well. Maybe you should start teaching them more than just how to twerk and play basketball. Or hey, what about maybe black kids just aren't as smart?
False. Stop it. I need you to try to clear your mind of all your societal conditioning and listen to me. Since the foundation of this country, black people have always been one of, if not the poorest race in the country. Currently, we are the poorest, be it low income, regular poverty, or extreme poverty. We are #1 in all of those. So you know what that means? That means that because of this generational poverty, black parents may have less access to materials, less time because of job and family obligations. Our moms don't have time to read to us because they're spending all their time at work trying to keep the lights on. And yes, I specifically said moms because another sad thing about black culture is the fact that because America has imprisoned so many black men, a huge percentage of us grow up in single parent households where the mother has to work twice as hard to provide, which thereby leads to the fact that black children are more likely to live in households that are low income, extremely poor, food insecure, or receiving long-term welfare support. And that causes severe stress, which thereby leads to the fact that black children are also more likely to have emotionally traumatic experiences in childhood, such as abuse or neglect or the death of a parent or witnessing domestic violence, which thereby leads to the fact that according to the National Council for Drug Abuse, a person in an impoverished situation may abuse drugs or alcohol in order to cope with the dangerous environment she lives in, a way to deal with her financial situations or cope with physical or emotional abuse, which thereby leads to the fact that according to futurity.org, welfare in periods of instability in family structures are risk factors for early sexual activity. This is why little black children are starting to have sex at 11 and 12 in order to get away from the problems in their home life. So by the time they get to school, they do horribly because they got way too much other stuff going on in their head to be worried about Pythagorean theorem. Like, This is it. Poverty leads to bad schooling. Bad schooling leads to high criminal activity. High criminal activity leads to racism. And racism leads to discrimination and black people not being given the same opportunities, which leads right back to poverty. And the cycle starts over. So when we say Black Lives Matter, this is not a war cry. This is us trying to get you to understand that we are in a situation that has layers on top of layers that you probably wouldn't get or understand unless you are a part of the black culture. We barely understand it or know where it started, but given the history of this country, we got a pretty big hunch that it started with racism. So our theory is that if we end racism, then we won't be discriminated against and be given less opportunities, which means that we won't live in poverty, which means that we'll have better schools and do better in them, which means we'll have less criminal activities, which means we'll give other races less of a reason to be racist in the first place. But honestly, we're not even so sure about that last part because sometimes it feels like people just hate us because. And so it feels like sometimes y'all don't think our lives matter. And you're not even trying to understand the situation that we're in or the environment that made us this way. So, to all black people, please do your best to educate those around you. Give love and emotional support to your community. And if you have the financial means, give money to your community so that we can stimulate our own economies. To all other races, specifically white people, we would just like you to really try to learn our circumstances and not just write us off as criminals and thugs. Really try to learn what it is that you could do to help reconstruct this systemic cycle that seems to engineer criminals and thugs. And to all people, I love you. What's good? My name is Charity Croft. It's Christmas time! But why this time? I mean, I'm sure you already know December 25th has nothing to do with Jesus' birthday. According to the Bible, he was born sometime between spring and early October, but it was absolutely not December 25th. So then what is the reason for the season? Well, I'm glad you asked. It's most likely because in the year 336, the Roman Emperor Constantine was trying to do away with paganism and really make Christianity a thing. Well, at that time, the biggest ancient festival was something called Saturnalia. This was a festival celebrating the god Saturn that lasted a little over a week starting on December 17th. The ancient Romans chose this time to celebrate Saturn because it was during winter solstice, which is when the sun is in a very specific position in the sky. Now, we won't get too far into that, but listen, once you learn why Saturday is named after Saturn and why Sunday is named after the sun, and notice how most religious activities take place on one of those 2 days, a lot of things will start making sense to you. Anyway, so Constantine thought, since everybody's already celebrating at this time, I can just make this the day that we celebrate Jesus and the whole world can make a much easier transition to Christianity. You gotta realize that at this time, most people worshiped multiple deities and were so-called pagans. Well, since Constantine and the Council of Nicaea were hell-bent on making Christianity the most powerful religion on earth, they just slapped their holidays on top of pagan holidays so the people could convert easier. Side note, the reason why Easter is always celebrated on a different day every year is because it's always the Sunday after the first full moon of the vernal equinox. Super pagan, nothing to do with Jesus' resurrection, nothing. Anywho, Christmas trees were used to decorate Saturnian temples. Mistletoe was used by ancient druids because they believe it had mystical powers. And presents were given during winter solstice to celebrate the spring to come. Pagan, pagan, pagan. And you ain't even know it. So pagan, in fact, that Christmas was outlawed in the New World when the Puritans first got here because they knew how pagan it was. It didn't become okay till the 1680s when they realized that gift giving could be profitable. Speaking of pagan, what does that word even mean? Like, why do we act like pagan means devil worshiper? The actual definition of pagan is any person holding religious beliefs other than the main world religions. So in other words, anybody who is not Christian or Muslim. Words like that is how Christianity was able to take over the entire planet by creating a bad word for people who didn't convert. He is pagan! Kill him! Back to Christmas. Who is this guy? Well, it's Santa Claus. He's actually based off a real person named Saint Nicholas, but you probably knew that already. But did you know that Saint Nick was a bishop in the Church of Turkey? He anonymously gave 3 bags of gold to a poor family, and after that everybody just made up this legend about anonymous gifts coming from a guy named Saint Nicholas, and Santa Claus was born. Now he lives in the North Pole, even though he's from the Middle East. So that means that originally Santa Claus's gift giving was a noble act of helping the poor. But in the 1800s, companies found that it was far more profitable to make it about little kids, because of course people buy gifts for kids before they buy them for poor people. And so companies like Macy's started using Santa's name to make Christmas into a corporate capitalist fiasco. But here is the biggest point of this video. In America alone, we spend more than $465 billion on Christmas presents every year. Those are gifts for one day, $465 billion. Well, check this out. According to Charity Water, you can buy a well for $5,000 that will provide water for 250 people for 20 years. And according to Feed the Children, you can buy a meal for 300 people for $120. So if you do the math, $120 times 3 meals a day times 365 days a year, then add in the cost of the water well, you could provide 300 starving people with food and water for a whole year with only $136,400. So if we take that $465 billion we spend, we could feed 1,020,000,000 people for a year. Well, it gets crazier. According to World Food Program's hunger statistics, there are only 795 million starving people on Earth. So that means with the money America alone spends on one Christmas, we can literally end world hunger for a year. Now let's take that one step further. If we just did away with the entire gift-giving part of Christmas, and every year we use the same money that we would have spent on presents to instead feed the poor, there would be no such thing as hunger, and the entire world would have food. Merry Christmas. I love you. What's good? My name is Charity Croft. Hillary Clinton is Bill Clinton. Hillary Clinton is Ronald Reagan. Hillary Clinton is George Washington. Hillary Clinton is America. But what does that mean? Well, we've all heard about this infamous email scandal. She apparently had a private email server while holding public office. She sent 60,000 emails, and of those 60,000, deleted 30,000. The country is concerned that she may have been leaking classified information. The bottom line is that America doesn't want a liar. America doesn't want someone that will say one thing and then do another. But then again, what's more American than that? Barack Obama's entire presidency was supposedly based on change, hope, virtues that represented peace, unity, and love. But guess what? Barack Obama has dropped over 8 times as many bombs as George Bush, according to the Bureau of Investigative Journalism. As of today, the Bureau supposes that at least 1,200 of the people killed in drone strikes were innocent civilians. To put that in perspective, that's almost half as many people as died in 9/11. These are horrible stats for any president, but especially one that was given a Nobel Peace Prize. But what does this have to do with Hillary Clinton? Well, everything, philosophically speaking. Hillary Clinton voted yes on the Iraq War, yes on the Patriot Act, and yes on the Baker bailout. 3 of the most unethical decisions that have been made in recent American history. But then again, what's more American than unethical decisions? This entire landmass was acquired through war and genocide. The infrastructure of this country was built by slave labor. When this country was founded, you weren't considered valuable unless you were rich, white, owned property, and had a penis. Our country is a gigantic monolith of unethicalness, so what's so unusual about Hillary? Nothing. She's completely and utterly usual. America loves legacy. America loves power. America loves wealth. Well, Hillary Clinton has all 3 of those. Her husband is a former president. She's arguably one of the most powerful women on earth. And as far as money goes, she's worth $45 million. That means it would take the average American almost 1,000 years of saving their entire yearly salary without spending any of it to reach as much money as she has right now. She's inconceivably, unimaginably, filthy rich in comparison to the average American. What's more patriotic than somebody like that becoming the President of the United States? Yes, she has changed her stance on countless issues, and many political analysts feel she'll say almost anything to become president. Yes, she has attempted to conceal many details of her political past. And yes, she has told the host of the most popular black radio station in the country that the one thing she never leaves the house without is hot sauce. And then when it was suggested that she may have said that just to pander to black people, she responded, "Well, is it working?" But hey, look at it this way. At least she's not Donald Trump, right? Most of us can agree that Trump seems to be an egomaniacal, unqualified loony that just one day decided he was cool enough to become president. We're all afraid that he's gonna walk into the White House, sit in the Oval Office, and then hit the red do not touch button and blow the whole country up. So let's just pick the lesser of the two evils, right? Like, at least Hillary won't completely ruin everything. At least Hillary will probably keep things about the same. That's cool. But what if we wanted something different? What if we wanted something better? What do we do? Well, it seems that neither candidate can provide us with much hope for a better America for all citizens. So who do we depend on? Well, what if we depended on ourselves? What if we actively helped every person that we saw that was in need? What if we volunteered locally to improve our communities and cities? What if we started loving all Americans despite their racial, sexual, political, or religious differences? What if we taught our children to always research and ask why and be open-minded and seek knowledge even outside of school? What if we supported our local businesses to help build a larger and stronger middle class for ourselves? What if we showed empathy and care for people even when we aren't directly affected by their situations? What if we stopped competing and started cooperating? What if we treated every person we ever meet with as much love and respect as we give the person we care about the most? What if we stopped looking for our presidents to be a savior and started becoming the change we want to see in this world? Maybe you think that's too hard. I don't think it would be. But regardless of whatever you decide, I love you.